Hello, youth. I hope you guys are doing well. It's your midweek encouragement. We got last week it was a blast. There was so much going on. I've got still candy, so if y'all did not get enough on Halloween, I have plenty here that you guys can enjoy in the coming weeks. I'm going to jump right into it this week, and then I will talk a little bit about this Sunday and things going on. We're going to be in Proverbs chapter 6 this week. We're going to continue on in the book of Proverbs talking about wisdom. And so we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 6. And I want to note that in real quick, because I think as we get into this, sometimes people get into sections of Proverbs and they take things in Proverbs and they stick them into other areas of life as these universally, like, always true statements. And so I want to remind us a couple of things. First, that parts of Proverbs are general wisdom for day-to-day living. That means that, generally speaking, the things that you find in Proverbs are wise advice for day-to-day interactions with the world around us. And the second thing I want to remind us is that if we read something in Proverbs and then we find scripture or other things in the Bible that seem to, like, maybe not jive well or seem to be saying something different, it's probably because that proverb is giving general advice for day-to-day living. And so I want to remind us before we start that in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus talks about a couple things. The first is he talks about the importance of our words and that we not take false oaths, not swear falsely. And it's this idea that the things that we say have a consequence. That if we make a promise, we are expected to follow through. If we pledge ourselves to someone, we are expected to follow through. And that we cannot just then twist our words or twist truth to whatever makes us feel better, more convenient, that type of thing. So that's one thing that Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount. Another thing that Jesus tells us in the Sermon on the Mount is that we should love our neighbor and our enemy, and that we should seek to give to those who are in need around us. And so I put those two things out to you at the start of this, because in Proverbs 6, we're going to look at this idea of a pledge, giving a pledge to somebody. And so Proverbs chapter 6, starting in verse 1, says, "My son, if you've put up security for your neighbor and have given your pledge for a stranger, if you are snared in the words of your mouth, caught in the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, and save yourself, for you've come into the hand of your neighbor. Go, hasten and plead urgently with your neighbor. Give your eyes no sleep and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, and the bird from the hand of the fowler." So there's this idea of putting up a security or putting up a pledge, a security for your neighbor or a pledge for a stranger. And this idea of doing these things is equated as being similar to or the same as being put into a snare. And so the teacher is trying to equate this with being caught in our own words. The teacher is trying to get us to see, like, don't let your words get you in trouble, specifically in the things that you promise to other people. And why? Why are they talking about these pledges and these securities? Because if you take a pledge or if you put security up for someone, you are essentially saying, I agree to pay this fine, this fee, this debt on this person's behalf if they are unable to do so themselves. It is essentially you saying, I agree to pay that person's debt if they are unable to. And so when you do that, the teacher is saying you are putting yourself at the mercy of whoever this person is. And so we are encouraged then by the Proverbs and by the teacher to plead with the person. And I think a lot of times it's to plead with them, oh, I need to get out of it. I don't think that's the goal. I think this pledge and this pleading is, if you have found yourself in this situation where you are now accountable to another person's debt, the plea is not, it might be release me, like let me off the hook. I need out of this agreement. But the plea could also be for them to get it together and pay their debt themselves. So that way you do not have to be accountable to it. And there's this unspoken thing then that runs through this bit of wisdom. And it comes out in verse 6. And that is, if your neighbor is trustworthy, hardworking, and a person of integrity, there's going to be less concern about their ability to pay their debt. And it is generally true that people who are those things, hardworking, trustworthy, person of integrity, they're generally not going to be the people that need someone to bail them out, to help them and put up security for them. Because again, Proverbs is giving general advice. So it is generally a good idea not to put yourself in a place to be accountable to another person's debt. It is generally a good idea not to be put in a place where you are accountable to another person's debt. That's wise to not be in that position. Especially as Proverbs 6 goes on, when you deal with the sluggard and the wicked person, it is very, very generally good advice not to be in that position. However, general wisdom has boundaries. And Proverbs is not calling us to never help someone financially. I think sometimes people might read Proverbs like this and they go, well, I won't agree to help you because I don't want to get stuck. Well, I don't want to get in over my head. And while that's generally wise, we should be mindful, rather, of what we agree to. This is not saying never ever help anybody ever. It's saying if you choose to help somebody, one, be mindful of your words, be mindful about what you're agreeing to, and two, keep the sort of company that is of high repute and able to be trusted with making these agreements with. Because there is times where doing that for someone, helping them in that way is an act of love. So it is generally wise not to lock yourself into paying someone else's debt, especially when that person is untrustworthy. But sometimes it is wise to help a neighbor out of love, even if that means that it's going to affect you negatively in a financial way. Because there's much more going on here, as we're going to see in the coming weeks in Proverbs 6, than just money. This is not just talking about, your finances. This is talking about the company you keep, the words that you say, the people you surround yourself with. And so we can take this as general advice to not lock yourself into commitments of debt. Rather, be mindful of what you agree to. Be mindful of who has the ability in your life to meet their debt requirements. And if a person is shown themselves untrustworthy to meet those debt requirements, it is not inappropriate to say, you know what, I don't think I can help you right now in this way. Maybe I can help you in a different way that doesn't lock me in financially to your situation. That's appropriate. And so I would challenge you to be mindful of the things you agree to this week. Think about the agreements you have, whether it's with friends or family, and just think about, what have I committed myself to? And if there are those things where you've committed yourself in an area where it's maybe bad, take the advice. Go to that person, whoever it is, and say, hey, I actually think I might have misspoken. I might be in over my head. I might not be able to actually be committed to this right now. that's appropriate to be honest and have that conversation rather than get you and that person in over each other's head and not be able to fulfill the thing you're committed to. So I would encourage you in that. Sorry, I had an eyelash. This Sunday is the pumpkin smash. We're going to be out at Pastor Ben's farm. We're going to be smacking pumpkins. I'm going to pick up a truckload of pumpkins tomorrow. I just heard from a homie. Shout out to Dylan over at Willamette, giving me the hookups of where I can get lots of gourds. And so if you need a ride, meet up here at the church. We're going to take the bus over. We're going to try to leave here as close to 4 as we can. It's going to be a good time. You do not need to bring anything. I will have instruments for hitting pumpkins and smashing pumpkins. And we're going to have a good time out at Pastor Ben's this week. So join us this Sunday for the pumpkin smash. Bring your frustrations. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.